This is one of the most widely used economics textbooks at universities across the world. In it, Harvard professor Gregory Mankiw wrote, "Trade can benefit everyone because it allows people to specialize in the activities in which they have a comparative advantage." And since the 1990s, this central tenet of globalization has worked beautifully. With the cost of shipping and communication way down, it became profitable for countries to focus on manufacturing and exporting what they do best and rely on imports in areas that are not their strong suits. The past 3 decades of globalization have brought spectacular, albeit uneven growth in the world, but it's been challenged as of late.
We're now in an era of de-globalization that was already likely to happen as a function of COVID, and now with the situation in Ukraine, I think companies have to rethink supply chains.
Over 300 global companies have pulled out of Russia. This might be the first time for many young Russians to experience what it's like to be cut out of globalization almost overnight. But the impact of this goes beyond a simple scale back on trade. There's a greater and perhaps existential threat to globalization this time around. Faith in this very concept may be starting to falter. Not that global free trade has become a bad thing, but that such a system can so easily be weaponized. Analysts are saying economies like India and Brazil are already studying how they can adjust their economic defenses in case they end up in the crossfire sometime in the future. On the other hand, the fuel crisis worsened by cutting off Russia has already forced countries like Belgium to delay their plans to get rid of nuclear energy. This could send a chill wave of national insecurity across the global community about the over-reliance on supply chains in other countries.
The world over the last several decades traded global supply chain security for supply chain efficiencies. And now we're finding that we're vulnerable to disruptions of all manner.
The Russia-Ukraine conflict comes at a time when the world has already been walking back on globalization. Global trade's share of world GDP peaked in 2008 and has been on a slow falling trend for the past decade. As the world saw the rise of populism, trade war, a pandemic, and now a major military conflict.
A lot of the trust issues around global trade were already pretty weak heading into this war, and again, they're just sort of making those worse.
If the economic claims of Mankiw's textbooks is right, that trade makes everyone better off, withdrawing from global integration for good reason or otherwise could make the world worse off economically. Globalization supporters would surely hope that it's just another hiccup, not a nail in the coffin.